full screen, yeah. Okay, so this evening we're going to do a little bit from bookkeeping transactions and a little bit from bookkeeping controls. Okay, so this evening the topics are the cash book for bookkeeping transactions, and then we're going to have a little look at some journals and the suspense account for bookkeeping controls. Sorry, did I say bookkeeping controls for the first one? So cash books for bookkeeping transactions and journals for bookkeeping controls. Okay, so remember that the cash book is a book of prime entry. Sorry, someone's just waiting to be admitted. So the cash book is a book of prime entry. What other books of prime entry do we have? Just a quick recap. So, sorry, I've lost my chat box. So you can either enter it into the chat box or you can unmute yourself. So the cash book is a book of prime entry, but what other books of prime entry do we have?
That's the sales book, sales day book, is that one?
Yeah. Excellent. We have the sales day book. Ashley, yes, the petty cash book. What else do we have?
Returns, like purchase return or sales return day book.
Yeah, excellent. So we've got all the returns day books. What else do we have? Thinking of discounts.
Discount allowed, discount received.
Yeah, discounts allowed and discounts received. Excellent.
Petty cash book.
Yeah, and the petty cash day book. Yeah, excellent. Okay, so remember with the cash book, generally it will be split into two parts. You'll either get a question that contains the debit side of the cash book or the credit side of the cash book. So the debit side is the receipts side. So receipts for money coming into the business. Now remember, the cash book is an asset. It's an asset to the business. So an asset account will fall onto the debt side of Dead and Click. So when the amount is increasing, it will be a debit. When the amount is decreasing, it will be a credit. So the credit side of the cash book is the payments. It's money going out because it's decreasing the amount of money in the cash book. Sorry, some other people are joining. Okay, so the cash book can be part of the double entry bookkeeping system. What does it mean when we say the cash book is part of the double entry bookkeeping system? So again, you can either unmute yourself and talk or just type into the chat box. Sorry, not cash book. So what do you mean?
If it's part of the double entry, does that mean we have to put the debit and the credit?
No, it's the opposite way. So
right, okay.
Yeah. So when the double entry, so when the cash book is part of the double entry, it means one side of the double entry has already been performed. So you only need to allow for the opposite side of the entry. Whereas if the cash book isn't part of the double entry, then you will need to ensure that you enter a debit and a credit entry.
So I don't use a cash book in any of the stuff that I do at work. What kind of examples would it be part of the double entry, and when would it not be in real life?
It would depend on the type of business really and how big the company is. Generally, the cash book will be part of the double entry. but occasionally it will be just treated as a subsidiary ledger, you know, like the sales ledger and the purchase ledger. So in that case, both the debits and credits will need to be accounted for in the main ledger.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so just a quick question practice. So the debit side of the cash book shows a balance brought down at the beginning of the week of £180. During that week, they received £480. The credit side showed payments totaling £2,500. What will the balance be at the end of the week? Yeah, Madalena. Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah, Fiona, brilliant. Yeah, if anyone's not sure, just let me know.
It's 1,840.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, so the debit side, we have a balance brought down of 180. During the week, they receive another £480. So that will also be on the debit side of the account. Then the credit side has payments going out of 2,500. So you would do the 180 plus the 480 minus the 2,500 coming out, which rightly so gives you a balance of, well, a negative balance of 1,840. So will that 1,840 be a debit or a credit?
Credit.
Credit, yeah. And what does that credit balance mean then?
Means the cash account's overdrawn.
Yeah, good. Okay, so another question. Okay, so we've got a cash book, we've got the debit side of the cash book. What will the 4 entries be in the main ledger if the cash book is part of the double entry?
VAT.
Yeah, it'll be the VAT account. What else?
Receivable.
Yeah, trade receivables.
And cash sales.
Yeah, so that's 3 accounts. Yeah, Fiona, almost. I'll come back to that bit in a minute that you've put, where you put cash and bank. Yeah, Madalena, yeah, cash sales. So the 4 accounts in the main ledger will be the VAT account, the trade receivables, the cash sales, and then we've got one more account. What's that 4th one? Sorry if I'm looking down, I'm just looking down at the chat box.
Is it bank?
Not bank. So look at the headings.
Other income.
Yeah, other income. Yeah, brilliant. Yeah. So in the cash book, the VAT, the trade receivables, cash sales, and other income is a debit. So in our main ledger, what will the entries be for them 4 accounts? Will they be debits or will they be credits?
Cash sales is a credit. And
Yeah.
VAT credit.
Yeah.
Then receivable debit.
Right. So all the accounts, the VAT, trade receivables, cash sales, and other income, all 4 will be a credit. And that is because the cash book, we're told, is part of the double entry bookkeeping system. So therefore, the debit side of the double entry is being done. You only need to allow for the opposite side, which will be the credit. Okay, now we also know that these accounts are a credit because if you think back to our dead and click, so for the VAT, so it's VAT on sales, which means that we need to pay that VAT over to HMRC. So it's increasing our liability. So it has to be a credit in the main ledger. In the trade receivables account, we have received a payment from a customer, which reduces the balance on their account. So it decreases the asset, so it would be a credit. Cash sales is an income, so an increase to an income falls onto the click side of dead and click. So again, it's a credit. Other income, again, it's money coming into the business, it's increasing, so it goes onto the click side or the credit side. But just the easiest way to remember it is one part of the double entry has been done for you. We're told we've got the debit side of the cash book, so we only need to allow for the credits. Now, yeah, Madalena and I can't remember who else, I think it was Fiona, had said about the bank and the cash. Now, if it is part of the double entry bookkeeping system, we don't need to allow for them because that's already been done. However, if this cash book was not part of the double entry, then we would also need the cash and the bank column. So would the cash and the bank be a debit or a credit in the main ledger? Hi Amjad, that's absolutely fine.
Debit.
Yeah, the debits. Yeah, well done. Yeah, well done Amjad, Rachel, Fiona. Yeah, because remember, so we've already allowed for our credits. So the VAT, trade receivables, cash sales, other income, all credits. So if it wasn't part of the double entry, we would also need an equal debit entry, and that would be the cash balance for £150 and the bank for 18,200. Okay. So we've got a practice question here. So this one's slightly different from the one that we've just looked at, but again, it's using the cash book. So it says the transactions below took place on the 31st of May. The cash book is a book of prime entry and part of the double entry bookkeeping system. So we're told the cash book, the debit side, and we've got the balance brought down. We're told there's a cash sales, and there's a transaction by a company called Unknown Limited. Then we've also got, so as well as a cash book, we've also got a discounts allowed day book. Now, we're asked, what will be the two entries in the sales ledger? So remember, the sales ledger is a subsidiary ledger. So looking at the information above in the cash book and the discounts allowed day book, what will the two entries be in a sales ledger? Remember that a sales ledger, it's a subsidiary ledger and it contains a list of our individual credit customers. So it's not discounts allowed or bank, because they will be accounts that will go into the main ledger. But yes, Rachel, Unknown Limited. So will that be for both accounts, Rachel, or will that just be one? Yeah, good, Noreen. Yeah, good, Sarah. Yeah, good, Fiona. Yeah, excellent. So it's for both. Remember, sales ledger contains our individual credit customers, and we're only told about one credit customer. We've got this Unknown Limited. Okay, so what amounts would we put in? Can you see the amounts on the screen, or is the chat box covering it? Yeah, 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 excellent. Yeah, remember, it is the total amounts that go into the sales ledger, exactly the same as with the sales ledger control account. Excellent. So we've got an amount of 1,200 and 300. And would they be a debit or a credit? Okay, so remember, okay, so Amjad and Ashley, you both, and Fiona, you've put that there will be a debit entry. But remember, this is the cash book. So if we look at the first entry of 1,200, so they have received £1,200 from Unknown Limited. So it will have been a debit into the bank account. So it means it would be a credit into the sales ledger account, into their individual account, because it will reduce the amount that they owe on the account. Please let me know if you need that explaining further, if you're not sure. Okay, good, Ashley, thank you. And then that's exactly the same with the discounts allowed daybook as well, for this £300. So remember, a discount allowed, you're allowing it on sales. So when that credit customer pays, they're actually paying slightly less. So discounts allowed is an expense. So it would be a debit to the discounts allowed account, but it would be a credit to their own personal account, because again, it will reduce the amount that they owe or reduce the asset. So they will both be credits. So again, looking at the information above, what will the 6 entries be in the general ledger? So what will the accounts be? So if we start off first of all with looking at the cash book. Yeah, so if we just look at the 1,200 first for Unknown Limited, so where else will that go? As well as going into their individual account, what would the name of the account be in the main ledger that will be affected? Yeah, excellent. So it's the sales ledger control account. Remember, the sales ledger control account is where the total of all the credit customers' amounts will go to, and it's only broken down in the subsidiary ledger. This is for the 1,200. So will it be a debit or a credit in the main ledger? So we've received a payment of £1,200 from this credit customer. Yeah, good, Rachel and Madalena. Yeah, it would be a credit because again, it will reduce the amount that they owe. So remember, what initially when they bought the goods for £1,200, it will have been a debit in the account. So we need to credit the account to show that it's no longer outstanding. Okay, so if we look back up, so again, we've dealt with this one, we now need to deal with this one. Again, it's an individual customer, so what account will be affected for that £300? Where will we put it? Not discounts allowed yet. It does need to go to discounts allowed, but where will the total amount go? Yes, Rachel. So again, sorry, I spelled it wrong. So the total, the gross amount, will go to the sales ledger control account. We'll look at the net amounts in a minute. And again, this will be a credit. Whatever happens in the sales, in the subsidiary account, will also happen in the control account. Okay, so next, so a few of you said that we will also use the discounts allowed account in the main ledger, and that is right. So what will be the amount entered into the discount allowed account in the main ledger? Yeah, excellent. Yeah, it's the 250. So it's the net amount. And will this be a debit or a credit in the main ledger? Yeah, it's a debit. And the reason it's a debit, remember, discounts allowed, it's an expense account, and the expense is increasing, so it falls on the debt side, so it's a debit. Okay, so sticking with this, we've dealt with the 300, dealt with the 250. So what else? Yeah. So we also have the VAT account. And how much would go into VAT? Just for this first transaction, because we're breaking it up. Yeah, it's the £50. Okay, so will this be a debit or a credit? Yeah. So remember, this is on the discount. So it will be a debit. So these two debits, so let me change the colour of the pen. No. So these two debits will equal this credit. Okay, and then going back up to the cash book, what else? What else do we need to deal with? Yeah, the cash sales, excellent. And what amount will go in for cash sales? I'll scroll back up for you. Yeah, good, Fiona. Yeah. So remember, it will be the net amount, because the VAT we will account for separately. So brilliant, Fiona and Rachel, well spotted there. Sorry, my page isn't moving down for some reason. So cash sales would be for £2,500. And will that be a debit or a credit? Credit, excellent. So what will our last entry be? based on that cash sales. Yeah, the VAT, and how much will that be for? And it's the VAT. It's amount of £500, and again, yeah, it would be a credit. Excellent. Okay, so a quick look at journals on a suspense account. So remember, a suspense account is a temporary account. It can't remain in the accounts. So when correcting an error, always think to yourself, what is it that has been done? What do you need to do to remove the incorrect entry? And how do you put it right? If it helps you, draw out the T account so you can visually see what happened. You can draw out what it is they have done, what you need to do to remove what they've done, and then what you need to do to put it right. Okay, so you have completed a trial balance and discover that it doesn't balance. The credit column is £220 more than the debit column. So you've opened up a suspense account. Will the opening balance on a suspense account be a debit or a credit? Yeah, excellent. Yeah, so the suspense account would need to be a debit of 220 to make both the debit and credit sides equal the same. Excellent. Okay, so looking at this, so we've got some journals on the right hand side of the page, and then on the left hand side we've got a mini trial balance. So first of all, the purchase ledger control account for an amount of £11,000. There's no journal for that account. So would that £11,000 in the trial balance be a debit or a credit? Excellent. Yeah, and it's a credit because it's a liability account. We owe our credit suppliers money. So the purchases £18,000. Now we do have a journal which says purchases, and we've got a £500 credit. So what amount would we do for purchases, and would it be a debit or a credit? Yeah, purchases is a debit. Yeah, good, Norrin. Good, Fiona. Yeah. So the purchases is £18,000. And then we've got a journal where it's telling us we need to credit the purchases 500. So we'd need to do 18,000 minus 500. So it would leave us with a debit of 17,500. Okay, sales, 81,770. We aren't told about a journal for that. So will that be a debit or a credit? Yeah, good. It's a credit. Yeah, because it's an income account. Okay, sales ledger control account. So the sales ledger control account, 25,510. And then we're told in the journal section, sales ledger control account, we need to credit the account 1,050. So what will the balance be in the trial balance for the sales ledger control account, and will it be a debit or a credit? Yeah, excellent, Madeleine and Fiona. Yeah, good, Rachel. Yeah, so sales ledger control account we know is an asset account because it's our trade receivables. So the journal of 1,050 we need to deduct from that amount. Good. Okay, drawings 2,700. Would that be a debit or a credit? Yeah, excellent, it falls on the debt side. What about advertising of 360? Excellent, because it's an expense. And discounts allowed is 105. And then it's telling us to debit discounts allowed £50 in the journals. So what will the balance be and what side will it be on, debit or a credit? Yeah, debit balance. Excellent. And what will the amount be? Yeah, it'd be 155. So it'll be 105. Discounts allowed is an expense, it's a debit. The journal is also for a debit, so we'd add the £50 on. Good. Okay, and just to finish off with, okay, so errors disclosed by the trial balance and errors that are not disclosed by the trial balance. So an error of omission, is that disclosed by the trial balance or not? This is where, so error of omission is where something's been totally missed off. It's not been entered as a debit or a credit. So would it affect our trial balance?
No.
Yeah, excellent. What about an error of commission? So remember, error of commission, remember, is where the wrong type of account is used. So for example, rent expense, instead of being debited to rent expense, we've debited the electricity expense account. Yeah, you're right, Rachel. So no, it wouldn't cause an imbalance because still it will have been entered on the right side. It's just been entered to the wrong account. So what about if there was an unequal double entry posting? For example, a debit of £30 and a credit of £300. Yeah, yeah, good, excellent, yeah. What about if both sides of the double entry was posted to the same side? So 2 debits or 2 credits. Yeah, that would cause an imbalance, excellent. So error of principal, remember it's where the wrong type of account is used. So it might be that an asset account is used instead of an expense account. So will that cause an imbalance? Yeah, good, Fiona. Yeah, so no, it wouldn't cause an imbalance because again, the debit will have been added to the right side. It's just been posted to the wrong account. What about a compensating error? So compensating error is just something where something's gone wrong and just by chance it's equaled each other out. No, good. What about a reversal of entries? So debit and credit has been entered of equal amounts. They've just been entered the wrong way around. Yeah, excellent. What about an error of original entry. It depends on what it is. If, for example, error of original entry, if it was just a wrong amount was put in, but as long as the wrong amount was entered on both sides of the account, then it wouldn't affect the double entry, or it wouldn't affect the trial balance, should I say. What about a single-sided double entry? So only the debit side was put in. Yeah, good. Okay, so it says here, a suspense account has been opened with a balance of £300. The error has been traced to the purchases daybook. So first of all, looking at this, can you find where the error is? Yeah, good, Rachel. Yes, the beetle total is wrong. So what should it be? Yeah. So this amount has been totaled wrong. It should be 984. So it means that this figure, the 9,708, is also wrong. So what should it be? Yeah, good. So it should be 9408. So this is where our £300 suspense has come from. So when you think, so this is the purchases daybook. So the purchases daybook, the entry, that 9,708 will have been entered into the purchase ledger control account. We draw a little T account. So this is where we say to draw out what did actually happen. So purchase ledger control account, credit purchases are entered on the credit side of the account. It's a liability account, and the purchases will increase the liability, so it's credit. So they will have been entered 9708 on the credit side. So in A, it says record the journal entry needed in the general ledger to remove the incorrect entry that was made from the purchases daybook. So how do we remove this entry that we've done wrong? What do we do? Excellent. Yeah. So we need to debit the purchase ledger control account of £9,708, and that will remove the wrong our error. So it is essentially makes it nil now. So if we fill it out in here, it will be the purchase ledger control account, and we will be using the original amount of 9,708, and we will be debiting the account to remove the entry. So part B, record the journal entry needed in the general ledger to record the correct entry that should have been made from the purchases daybook. So how do we put this entry right? Excellent. Yeah, brilliant. So to put it right, we need to credit the purchase ledger control account of the right amount, which is the 9,408. record the journal entry needed in the general ledger to remove the suspense account. So what will we do now to remove that £300 from the suspense account? So remember, the £300 is a difference between the two accounts. How do we remove the suspense account? So initially, yeah, brilliant. So yeah, so initially we entered £9,708 into the account as a credit, and it was too high. It was £300 too much. So we have now rectified the purchase ledger control account, and we would need to credit the suspense account of £300. This is the difference between the two amounts. Okay, so does anyone have any questions? Okay, is there anything in particular that anyone would find helpful to go over in any of the sessions, especially if you've got an exam coming up from either bookkeeping transactions or bookkeeping controls? Generally in the session, we will always do the first half of the session on bookkeeping transactions, and then the second half something from bookkeeping controls. So is there anything that anyone would like to make sure we cover in the sessions?